When we teach, we learn. Now, I believe this is the essence of my channel in a sense, because I've committed myself to a life of lifelong learning, and I believe one of the best ways to learn is to teach, as Seneca says. And I think this should be the pursuit of everyone who is either deeply passionate or trying to pursue something. They should start teaching, because in that process you learn more about yourself and about the pursuit that you are pursuing. But I don't believe we should teach in a egotistical I know everything type of way, but teach from a position of, this is what I believe, what do you think? Or this is what I've been through, this is the lesson I have gathered from it. I'd love to hear if you agree, or I'd love to hear what you actually think this lesson was in service to providing. Because when you teach from a position of already knowing, you simply cannot learn. I forget who said it, but you cannot learn that which you think you already know. You need to come from a position of humility to learn, a position of, there's a chance that I am wrong, a position of, I've done my due diligence, or I wouldn't be trying to teach you this. But I also know that I am human, and I also know there is a chance that classic. I also know there's a chance that I am wrong. That is the position we have to teach from. And when we do that, as I said, I believe we learn even more than we thought possible. We learn things that we thought we would never learn on subjects we thought we already knew so much about. But that's the other beautiful thing. When we teach, we learn, because in doing so, I believe you come more to understand things than just merely knowing them. And I've been talking a lot about that recently. Just coming to know things that you only merely understood. Because knowing isn't enough. Understanding is the goal. Understanding is wisdom. Knowledge not applied is just, trivial. So that's why I believe, for one, when we teach, we learn, but also why it's paramount that we teach when we are trying to learn, because you learn so much more, you learn so much faster, and you come to understand things you only once knew. And that is what I have been doing on these hikes that I've been doing in the Alps. I've been doing a lot of videos. I don't have service, so that's why you're not seeing any videos. But I mean, you don't really know that, but there's some videos coming out soon. And but that's what I've been doing. Been teaching, but also coming to understand the things that I only once knew. And this has been a profound experience, because, as I said, I believe that's where wisdom is. And I think you need a long time, and you need a lot of actual experience to come to understand the things you know. You can't just read something and then become wise. You can't just study discipline and become disciplined. You need to act in the real world, and you need to come to understand what it actually means, the things that you're learning, and the ways to apply them, and why they actually are true, and not just You can't take things dogmatically and expect to understand them. You need to stress test them in the real world and come to real understanding. And then it becomes like second nature. You may ask why, the good, like, well, Paul and I want to say Romans, but don't quote me. He says, I know the good, yet I do not do the good. And, there's been interpretations about this for, for a long time now. And, some talk about, how Plato talks about the chariot drivers getting pulled by two horses, and the one's rationality and the one's, like emotions, lust, the animal emotions we have, and the other one's the rational side of us. Ugh. Sorry, it's very, very rocky, so it's not that easy to hold the phone sometimes. But my interpretation too is that, Paul knew the good, but Paul struggled understanding the good, because once you truly understand something, you can't help but do it. And, Socrates says this. And to stay with the point of, when we teach, we learn, that is all Socrates did. Socrates never wrote. Socrates, never, well, maybe not never, but, his learning was in the real world. His learning was in his teaching, even though he probably wouldn't have stated it as teaching. And that's just because how humble Socrates was. He would just merely ask questions and would merely inquire and would merely not push a narrative, but, push you down a road to say, you say you believe this, but let's stress test it. And that is how Socrates came to learn. And he either came to change his beliefs, or his beliefs became fortified because he had another person go over what he thought was true, and they ended up, whether willingly or unwillingly, coming to the same conclusions. And, this was Socrates' preferred method of learning. And, philosophy kind of started with Socrates, I think Anaxagoras was technically like the first philosopher, but, Socrates was alive when Anaxagoras was alive, so Socrates is like in the beginning, and that was his preferred method, not sitting in a house reading and writing, even though I'm sure he did this, but teaching from a position of humility, saying that I am not wise, so if you are wise, teach me that which you know. And obviously people didn't really love Socrates, a lot of people, because they questioned. All he did was question without giving answers, which can be frustrating. But I think if you're truly humble, you would enjoy the questioning process and realizing that, I'm holding a misguided belief, and this could be the cause for many other misguided beliefs, suffering, because that's what Boethius says in the Consultation of Philosophy. A misguided belief, or suffering, is due to a misguided belief. But I digress. And the main point I want to make is that if you really want to start learning something, if you really want to pursue something that you're passionate about, teach, because you'll learn more. But teach from a position that there's still more for you to know, and from a position that you believe that in this process of teaching, the person you are teaching and you will come to understand more from the pursuit.